Alright, this is Darker Days Radio, episode number 61. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, Mike. And you know what? I have a confession to make. Chris, Chigg,
Yeah.
it's almost the end of 2014. And I don't think I played one World of Darkness game session this entire year.
Don't worry, I think that's the same for me as well. This year's been a bit more hectic and hard to get people organized, so, you know.
Wait. Didn't you run,
I may have.
No, not you, Mike. Mike, didn't you run, at least one, Tremere Chronicles? Does that not count? Was that not this year?
No, that was last year.
What?
Chigg, time flies. Time flies. Yeah, that was basically when we were starting up season 5. And Chigg, we're on season 6 of Darker Days Radio.
What? When did that happen?
Oh man, I know. It's been a crazy year. But yeah, I do actually have a game to run in the docket. Because Peter Marshall, our Australian correspondent and two-timer on the Midnight Express podcast for Classic World of Darkness games, challenged me to run Demon Hunter X, and I'm totally going to do it. I've got a great idea for a game. It might be based off of Sailor Moon. It's going to be awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I just kind of realized that not too long ago that I haven't run or played in a World of Darkness game this year. So I really need to get on that. Maybe that's going to be my New Year's resolution, to play a lot more World of Darkness this year.
I was trying to think, what games have we played this year?
That's pretty easy. I mean, you did that 3x3 RPG thing on Google+. So I personally, in 2014, I played Iron Kingdoms, obviously, because Chris, you ran that. I've been playing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition, which is pretty rad. Played some Shadowrun. I don't know what happened to that group. I need to go give those guys a call, and gals.
We played some Cthulhu Tech.
Oh, I ran Cthulhu Tech. Yes. Oh, that game. That game needs some work. I don't know. Chris, what's your gaming been like in the year of 2014?
Well, I mean, we obviously at the start of the year, my Iron Kingdoms group kind of fell apart because one of the players left. So, and then everyone just got really busy, and that's been the main barrier to just doing some role playing. So, obviously, there's online stuff that we've done. So yeah, running Iron Kingdoms miniatureless was insightful. I think. Cthulhu Tech is always interesting, but of course for me, gaming-wise, I've just been doing a lot of miniature stuff because, when you can't organize a whole group of people to play, getting just one other person to turn up and doing some miniature gaming is quite easy. So gaming-wise, been War Machine Hordes and playing Hybrid a lot, which I put up my review video and gameplay video of, which was interesting, considering when I rewatched that video, I kicked myself for my stupid move, which meant I actually lost that mission. So, but it's been good. I've been looking into some other stuff. So, obviously, we did our Darkling on Warhammer. And of course, we're like, oh yeah, Mordheim. Mordheim's great. And I'm just like, I'd love to play Mordheim, but do I really want to buy a lot of Games Workshop miniatures right now? Nah. And I've been looking into Dogs of War, which is a expansion to Confrontation, which allows you to do little mercenary war bands that gain experience. And you can pick and choose models from the entire range of a particular army. So you can have magic users, you can have, you can pick there aren't as many limitations, except that you can't have named characters and so forth from the game. So I'm looking forward to trying that out and seeing how it plays. But that's pretty much it right now. Obviously, roleplay wise, I'm trying to get a session of Fading Suns going, just so I can actually really play about with the new system. If that fails, I might run it as an online game, and we'll see how we go with that.
Awesome. Chigg, you got to save us. You got to make us look better. How much RPGing did you do in 2014?
I have a weekly session. We've played The Strange. We've played Werewolf the Apocalypse. We've played several versions of Fate Core. We played that game that FASA put out that I didn't care for. I know that doesn't narrow it down.
Yeah, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Shadowrun that you don't dig, or it was Cosmic Patrol, right?
No. What was their fantasy prehistoric Shadowrun?
Oh,
Earth Dawn.
Earth Dawn. Yeah. Played some of that. Played some 4th edition earlier in the year. Confirmed that I didn't particularly care for it. Have yet to play 5th edition D&D, although it is all the rage.
It's pretty good, Chigg. It's like it's streamlined, similar to third edition had a lot of problems when you got down to it.
It's not that I haven't played it because I don't want to play it or that I don't think it'll be good. It's that I just haven't had the chance yet to play it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hasn't come up. Although I am next in rotation to run a game for the group, but I think I'm going to be doing some Star Wars.
Star Wars D6 or Star Wars Age of Rebellion?
Either D6 or Fate Core.
Oh, okay.
Whoa! So you're gonna just pass up the sweet new Fantasy Flight game?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's fine. I respect that.
Nothing against the Fantasy Flight game, but watching Star Wars Rebels has really made me want to play a Star Wars game, and it strikes me very much as a D6 Chronicle that somebody adapted for TV. So
yeah, there's a really big fan base for Star Wars D6, so a lot of stuff gets converted over. I think someone released a kind of unofficial.
Oh, I have that.
Expanded 2nd edition, revised.
It's pretty nice,
etc.
Yeah. Somebody went to a lot of effort for that, and I appreciate it. If you're listening, thanks.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. Well, Chigg luckily saved us because he apparently played Werewolf the Apocalypse sometime in 2014 and didn't tell us about it. But, well, you know what, Chigg? How was that Werewolf game? Was it good? Cool?
It was good. It was short-lived. I don't think my group is the right group for Werewolf, unfortunately. But, yeah, it was fun.
All right,
and then
sweet.
Then we moved on to... what's the Numenera after that?
Oh, okay. Playing a lot of Monty Cook games over there, aren't you?
Just coincidentally, yeah. Did not plan it that way.
All right, sweet. So with that, let's just hop on over. Let's talk a little bit about the different World of Darkness and Onyx Path news. All right, so we haven't done one of these episodes in a while. I think we missed November, but in December we have 2 episodes. As mentioned, we have that sweet Warhammer Darkling that was just released. So there's probably going to be quite a bit on the Onyx Path website that has come out recently. The Idgum Chronicle Anthology for Werewolf the Forsaken. So this is a short story anthology covering new inspirational short stories for the Werewolf 2nd edition that's going to be coming out very soon. I've not checked it out, but definitely like Werewolf the Forsaken, so it could be cool to read some of the new short fiction for it.
Just released has been Book of the Deceived for Mummy the Curse. I have not grabbed a copy, but I will be doing so because I think that will it should really, deepen the setting and kind of give some more ideas of what a Mummy Chronicle involves. And I think last time we talked about Mummy, we were all like, the deceived sound cool, and yeah, I'm eager to read that one.
Awesome. And then additionally, we have Tribe Book White Howlers for Werewolf the Apocalypse. This is a pretty cool tribe book because it's covering a tribe which is, I guess, extinct, really. They were a Scottish werewolf tribe that was corrupted by the worm and became the Black Spiral Dancers. So it's kind of a cool...
a nice way of saying it, yeah.
Yes. So it's kind of a cool throwback to give you some historical information on this tribe, and it's, I guess, sort of a historical source book in some ways.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's really, really well written from what I've read of it so far.
Oh, excellent. Well, that was Jess Hartley, I believe, who's a phenomenal writer.
She certainly is.
Yep. And then additionally for Werewolf is W20 Umbra, the Velvet Shadow. This is an update for the Umbral material for Werewolf 20th Anniversary Edition, and it kind of updates from the old first edition and second edition Umbra source books.
Yeah, that one kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't expecting it to be out, and then there it was on drive-thru.
Indeed. And continuing with the werewolf theme, we have W20 Book of the Worm. So this is an update for the first and second edition Worm books. It covers the basically antagonists, the primary overt antagonists for the Champions of Gaia, the Guru.
And it is super good.
Is it? All right, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. And then finally, we have the Geist ready-made characters. So, this is a very nice additional option for storytellers if you need some quick characters, quick NPCs, or if you're going to run a one-shot or something, you just grab these guys and go with it. And they've released these for pretty much all of the New World of Darkness games, and they include both the stats of the characters as well as some information on their background and how they intermesh with all the others. Yep. And finally, for Kickstarter, the Dark Ages Vampire Kickstarter ended successfully. And additionally, they have the Wraith, the Oblivion 20th Anniversary Edition Kickstarter ongoing right now. And we're actually going to be talking about that later on in the show. So, is there anything else we have to cover with regard to World of Darkness and new news or anything like that? Has anyone heard anything about Beast? I mean... they announced it, and then it kind of just vanished.
I heard it's in development.
Yeah, I've heard through the grapevine good things so far about it. So I know someone that knows someone that's involved somehow in playtest or playing it. So, but I know nothing else other than it's been good.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And I think with that, do we have any Darker Days news that we have to go over? Anything cool going on? Any hybrid videos that have been released or anything like that?
Yeah, so I put up a I guess it was a review / unboxing, which is kind of stupid considering you can't really buy it brand new in box that easily. And I put up a gameplay video, so I think from that it kind of gives an impression of how that game works. I might put up another video of gameplay, hopefully after Christmas when we play some, simply because that mission I played was a bit anticlimactic towards the end, so hopefully the next one will be a bit more interesting.
All right.
And what game was that?
So that's Hybrid, this miniatures board game made by Rackham. That's based on their Confrontation Ragnarok setting, so it's kind of like a dungeon crawl. But it's you have one person controlling the alchemical clones and aberrations of Durs, and the other side is playing the warriors of the Lodge of Hod from the kingdom of Acalania, and the Lodge of Hod is a secret society that exists within the Church of Merrin. And they also have enemies after them, like the Inquisition, and it's pretty. The hybrid setting is really about going into these alchemical laboratories that have reawakened, because the main plot point within the confrontation setting is this god called Altoth, who's this god who's basically the god of technomancy and alchemy. He is through a ritual known as the Dawn Ritual, he's brought onto the world of Artclash, and his presence reawakens all the old laboratories that were hidden in other kingdoms. And because of that, the Lodge of Hod leads a kind of a silent crusade to protect people and also to retrieve the secrets from these laboratories.
Sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, because it's over-designed. If you watch the videos, you'll see these cards have mountains of text on them, and then have like the minute amount of actual game text. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, so people can definitely go check that out. But let's get back to the World of Darkness and cover the classic World of Darkness segment.
Classic World of Darkness.
Chris, Chigg, It's here. It's here. Wraith 20th Anniversary Edition. The Kickstarter's up. They're making it. And as listeners may recall, I might have said, maybe like a year or two ago, I was like, psh, they don't need a 20th anniversary of Wraith. It's already so great as it is. It's already perfect. But you know what? Rich, Dead Guy Dansky is proving me wrong. Because he's given us something that's way better than what we've seen before. Load of new ideas and experiences developed over the past 20 years of Wraith that are going to bring us the Ultimate Edition. And here it comes. So I backed it within 5 minutes of it going up without reading the Kickstarter page, as is my modus operandi these days. Chigg, did you back it?
Absolutely.
Sweet. Did you back it within the first 5 minutes without reading the Kickstarter page?
At least that fast.
Nice.
Maybe faster.
Nice. All right, and Chris, did you finally decide? I know you were thinking about it.
I've still got time to decide if I grab a PDF, but I've been backing some other stuff as well, and I think I'll have a think about it. But I'll definitely grab the PDF for this one because I think Wraith 20 is significantly to me more interesting than the other 20th anniversary stuff we've seen so far.
All right, good to hear.
Yeah.
So I think in this segment, we're kind of going to just review what's going on with Wraith 20 and look at some of the new design decisions that have been made, and not only how that's going to impact Wraith 20th, but also just kind of analyze what we expect is going to happen with Changeling 20th. Because as you'll kind of learn as we're going through this, this is kind of setting a lot of interesting precedent for how that Kickstarter might be run and how that development process might work. And of course, we have Chigg here, who is our Changeling expert.
I am already saving up for next year's Kickstarter.
Excellent. And you know, Chigg, you could just get a second mortgage on your house, and you could just go all in.
Well, the top tier on Wraith is $1,500, so I got to start saving now.
Okay, wait, what 1,500? What is that?
It's called Audience with Charon.
Charon.
Yeah, that.
It's pronounced Charon.
It's pronounced Charon, and she goes coochie coochie coo.
Yeah. I just want to read through this. Sorry, listeners to the show, but now I'm just kind of curious. You get a copy of Wraith 20th. You get a storyteller screen.
I think it's that last thing
Character's
on the
name.
list.
Special thanks. Plus, Richard Dansky will run a session of Wraith 20th over Skype for you and a coterie of players. Coterie? Excuse me, that's the wrong noun. Okay, the proper noun should be circle. Circle of Wraiths. Thanks. Sorry, anyway, getting back to the actual segment, though. Wraith 20th. So we, of course, have done multiple Wraith segments here on the show. If you want to go back and get kind of like a highlight review of the game system itself, definitely check out Darker Days episode number 22, where we have a rapid fire discussing Wraith. And we've also gone over different Wraith factions and discussed kind of the geography of the Shadowlands as well in previous episodes, usually the last one of a season. So if you want more kind of basic information about the game itself, you can feel free to pause the show here and go back and check out one of those previous episodes. But here we have it, Wraith 20th. It's a storytelling game of passion and horror, where you play as one of these ghosts who is a spirit that can't let go of the mortal realm and is held there by their fetters and feeds off the passions of others, the living, and the quick, as they're called. And we're seeing that they're in this Wraith 20th, which is going to be a compilation of a lot of different previous source books and also the core rules of the game. They're going to be changing around a few things, which is what I'm kind of most interested in. We've already seen from the previous 20th anniversaries that these are usually a very strong anthology, which includes a lot of the different powers, a lot of different minor factions, in this case probably all the different guilds for Wraith. But it's kind of interesting to look at this one because this is the first 20th anniversary edition that is not being revised or expanded from a revised edition book. Wraith only had a first edition, an old softcover that came out in 1994, and then also a hardcover second edition, which came out in 1996. They never got the revised treatment. So this is the first time that writers are really going to be able to go back and expand on and correct a lot of the design aspects that were done previously. And I guess just because I'm looking at it right now, just so we can discuss who the writers are, because they're very familiar to a lot of World of Darkness fans. Listed on the Kickstarter page, we of course have Rich Dansky, who's been on the show before. He was the second or third Wraith developer, preceding Sam Chupp and Jennifer Hartshorn. Additionally, we have Bruce Baugh, who's a very, very cool World of Darkness writer. In fact, when I first got into World of Darkness books, someone told me, if you see that Bruce Baugh is one of the authors, it's probably going to be a good book. And that advice has never steered me wrong since.
It's a good rule of thumb.
It is. We also have Lucian Solban. He is very well known for his work not only on Wraith, but also on the Orpheus game line, which he developed. And he also did the Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War story stuff, like the writing for it. Also, he did Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which is a great video game that you should check out.
I believe he's one of Ubisoft's lead writers.
I believe it. Next up, we have two writers that are very familiar to Chigg right here. We have Jackie Casada, who did a lot of work on various World of Darkness games, including Changeling, The Dreaming. And is she the one that wrote the Immortalized trilogy?
Not that I remember.
Okay, I guess I'm mistaken in that regard. And we also have Nikki Ria, who also worked on Changeling Dreaming and a bunch of other World of Darkness games. And actually, those two both worked on a lot of Ravenloft material for TSR back in the day.
I take it back. Jackie Casada did write the trilogy, which shall not be named.
Well, I mean, she's a great writer. She just that was a tough thing to work with, you know. Adapting.
It was a dark day. It was not a good time.
Well, yeah, okay. Anyway, moving on, and then Clayton Oliver, who I am not familiar with. Chigg, do you recognize that writer?
Clayton Oliver? No.
No. Well, that's fine. And then additionally, we have Charles Andrew Bates, is that Andrew Bates?
Clayton Oliver wrote Clambook Assamite Revised Edition.
Interesting. Yes, actually, it does seem that Charles Andrew Bates is Andrew Bates, who is an artist for White Wolf. He also did some development of Mummy the Resurrection, and additionally wrote the Mummy trilogy back in the day. And of course, we have Matthew Dawkins, who is the Gentleman Gamer, friend of the show, and has been writing for Onyx Path recently. And then finally, Lillian Cohen Moore, who's been on the show before. And we, if listeners remember, is a huge fan of Wraith, so it's very exciting to see her joining this team and helping out with the 20th anniversary edition. So from that kind of list of authors, you can see that there's a bunch of existing authors and new ones coming in to contribute their own ideas and expertise to the Wraith universe. And one of the cool things that's going to be happening with Wraith 20th is that they're going through and they're really updating the system and revising. But we're also learning that there's a lot of things that they can't fit in there. Rich Dansky released a very interesting Kickstarter update where he brought up the Dark Kingdoms, which are additional parts of the setting outside of Stygia and the Dark Kingdom of Iron, which is the sort of European/American default setting for Wraith. They also have the Dark Kingdom of Jade, Dark Kingdom of Ivory, and a couple others, which are other societies that you could explore in the Wraith universe. Now, in this update, he was discussing updating and really talking about the word count and how to manage that with this book. And it seems as though his design decision was that he was going to include as much as he could about the new rules and Arcanoi and how to update those in the Wraith 20th book. But he's actually going to leave out a lot of the information on the Dark Kingdoms. Maybe just put in a couple paragraphs in quick summary to remind people and explain what they are. But a lot of that's going to be missing from a lot of the expanded cultural aspects and discussion and source material is going to be missing from the Wraith 20th book. Likewise, we're seeing that they're going to put in information on the Spectres, which are the Wraith servants of Oblivion, essentially, the dark forces of the Shadowlands in that universe. Additionally, there's going to be rules for the Risen, which are the Wraiths that can go back and inhibit their bodies or another living body to return to the Skinlands, where us mortals live in the game.
You can just call them the Crow, Mike.
They're basically the Crow. Yes, that was the Risen is probably the weakest of the Wraith source books, and it's still actually pretty okay.
It's the crowiest of all.
It's the crowiest of all. And it's actually interesting that it was marketed as a Wraith book, but right on the back there's a big stamp for Vampire the Masquerade with that logo, and it actually has a significant amount of material on how these Risen characters, aka the Crow, can interact with Kindred Society. Additionally, there's going to be material for Orpheus. This was going to be just a small section, but they've expanded it to an appendix. It doesn't seem like from the updates that we really know what's going to go into this appendix. I know, Chigg, you're hoping that they're going to have character creation rules in there.
It would be nice if they're going to include setting material. It makes sense that they would include, and here's how you make a character to play in this setting we've just described.
I'm sure there'll be a reworking of something like Arcanoi to be certain powers. I mean, I don't know. Orpheus character creation rules didn't take up that much space. I think.
Right, but there were. I mean, yeah, in Orpheus you had half of the splats were living people.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't really anything. You don't have to do anything crazy with choosing what type of. Either you're or you're a ghost that's able to ride someone. So I don't think it should be that difficult to provide enough space to make it playable.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, to make it playable, perhaps, but to really do it justice and have the full character creation with all the different powers updated, I think would take up a lot of space. They mentioned in here that the new expanded Wraith appendix is going to be about 15,000 words, which I believe that's probably only about like 24 pages. So maybe it could be done, but then you'll be missing out on a lot of the interesting source material between the Orpheus group and Terrell and Squib and the different factions going on in that setting.
True.
If they're not including the Dark Kingdoms outside of Stygia, then I'm really, really hesitant to think that they're going to include anything outside of the Orpheus group in the Orpheus section.
That's a valid point. That's a very valid point, Chigg. I don't know, we'll have to see how it plays out, and maybe we'll get a cool update at some point where Rose or Rich will kind of explain what's going to be going into that section. I'd be very curious to see, because Orpheus is one of those interesting game lines that I've not really been able to explore that much. So if they can fit it all into Wraith 20th and kind of give you like a easy plug and play, that would just be phenomenal, to really let you jump in and get started with that game setting a lot faster and easier. Cool. Another big thing that we're going to be seeing is not only the revision to Arcanoi in the update, but also updating and revising of the shadow guiding rules. Now, shadow guiding is an important aspect of the Wraith game itself that I'm not sure if we've really talked about too much here on the show. Essentially what happens is that within the context of the game, the Wraiths have this other dark force within them called the Shadow. It's this twin to their being and psyche, which is trying to drag them towards oblivion, whispering to them, offering them power in exchange for essentially damning their soul and bringing them closer to destruction. When the Shadow takes over fully in the Wraith, that's basically when they become a specter, become an agent of oblivion. Now, within the actual gameplay and the rules, there's a system for shadow guiding where another player will take control of your shadow and could pass you notes and make you deals and offers to give you power over the course of the game when you're in a very difficult situation. And if you accept that power, you're going to lose control of your character for a little bit, perhaps, depending on the effects, and that player would then take over. That's kind of the real basic explanation of shadow guiding. Now, understandably, this can make things a little difficult because now players have to handle two different characters and have to pay attention quite a bit. A few other systems have appeared over the years where perhaps the storyteller just controls the shadows of everyone in the group. But this can also be pretty difficult for the storyteller because now they're handling all the NPCs and partially controlling the other player characters. So it's going to be interesting to see what the new shadow guiding rules are and how they make them clearer. Because it's not only just the role-playing aspect, there's also a bit of bookkeeping. You basically have it, I think in some books they actually gave you a separate character sheet for the shadow. So, there's a lot of bookkeeping. If they can tie that all together into one spot, that might make things a little bit easier. And just to make things more streamlined and just clear for how the shadow works and plays with the characters would definitely be good. And I think they can definitely do that with a lot of inspiration from newer, more story-driven games that have come out over the years. I know Lillian Cohen-Moore works on quite a few of those, so that's definitely a good person to have on the team to help out in that regard. Yes, yeah, that was
I can see with the shadow guiding the idea of, I think, what we commonly that I commonly kind of call in New World Darkness, nudge mechanics to
correct.
It makes sense to maybe kind of gamify how and really kind of encode how being the shadow to another player's character works without it being completely overbearing and turning into a nightmare for both players. So that'd be really cool.
Indeed. And another system that's going to be cleaned up and revised is Passions and Fetters. The system that exists for these they're not too difficult. Passions basically allow you to make a roll when you're around someone who is exhibiting emotions and passions similar to what your Wraith feeds off of. So, for example, your Wraith may gain pathos from anger. So if someone's an NPC is very angry, so let's say they're in a murderous rage or something, the Wraith may be able to gain pathos from that. I think it might be good to revise these just to make them a bit more clear for when they're used. Because the only issue I can see with Wraith is that sometimes people will have to kind of stop and say, like, oh, is this person angry? Can I make this roll? Just making a list of like particular triggers for each of the passions, I think would be very good for allowing this mechanic to be used without disturbing the flow of the game. Because that's really one of the primary issues I think you run into with Wraith is getting bogged down by these more esoteric and obscure rules that kind of prevent you from keeping up the flow of gameplay and the story itself.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. And then, as we said, they're going to be revising the setting a little bit and looking at how they can sort of fix up the Stygian and Shadowlands setting to enhance gameplay. I think one of the biggest things that they're going to be doing is making guilds into a more viable option. You may recall that Chigg and I had a bit of a back and forth previously when we were discussing different factions of Wraith, and the guilds in particular, for how they're presented in the setting. And previously, when you look at first edition especially, the guilds have been disbanded. They're very oppressed or outright hunted by the hierarchy. But now it seems like, without revealing too much, Rich Dansky is going to be fixing that and making them more viable for gameplay. And they're in fact now going to be encouraging players and characters to join a guild or make it a very strong option at character creation. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see. And I'm wondering what they're going to have to change or adjust in the setting itself to make that viable. Because if you go back and listen to that previous episode, I don't remember which one it is. I think it was like 58 or so. When Chigg and I were discussing the Wraith factions, I basically brought up the point where I feel that at character creation, you can join one of those factions. You could be in a guild or in a legion of the hierarchy or a particular heretic cult, or you can just be an independent Wraith without any faction ties, let's say. And those are all equally valid options. So I'm kind of curious what they're going to do to the setting to make it so that characters and players now particularly want to be part of a guild.
Yeah, I've always felt that including the guild and saying, hey, look, here's all these neato, cool, awesome factions. But if you play one, then you're hunted and nobody likes you, and it's really a bad option inside the setting, was just, I don't know, a counterintuitive idea maybe.
Indeed,
but,
indeed.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to do going forward.
Yep. So that's Wraith 20th right there. It's kind of cool to see, and maybe if we just kind of skip through some of the stretch goals, we might be able to brainstorm a little bit more and give some more opinion and ideas about this. And the first few Kickstarter or stretch goals are pretty simple. Wraith t-shirts. You've all heard Chigg's opinion on t-shirts for World of Darkness games.
Yeah.
Yeah. A street map of Stygia, which is actually kind of cool. I've always had this idea that Wraith would be like the sweetest Dungeons and Dragons campaign setting ever. You know, just exploring this bizarre otherworld of death. It would be really cool, especially even if you divorced it from the mortal world and just made it into this this crazy fantasy adventure. Wraith would in Stygia would be pretty neat. So that map could be interesting. You know, people like to have maps for their fantasy games, and actually, this is another side tangent right here, but kind of interesting one. Chigg, you pointed out to me when this map was being released that Wraith is actually kind of like Planescape, isn't it? When you look at the Shadowlands, it's all centered around this one city where you can, from that city, go to all these different places. In this case, in the Shadowlands, into the different holds and citadels of the hierarchy in other places, in the other Dark Kingdoms, as opposed to Planescape, where they have all these different doors, different planes, and immaterial realms.
It's a slightly darker version of Planescape, yeah.
Yes, and of course in Planescape, the guilds, I'm saying this in quotation marks, have not been destroyed and oppressed yet.
Yet being the operative word.
Indeed. Additionally, there's going to be a Wraith fiction anthology. Okay, we've seen a lot of those. That could be definitely some pretty cool stuff. And they're going to do the Orpheus subsection, as we mentioned, 15,000 word appendix to the book. Definitely good. Another new book that they're going to be putting out is the Handbook for the Recently Deceased, which is actually a 24-page kind of primer for players and storytellers as well, explaining life after death for the Wraith characters. They're going to be putting in some additional Arcanoi. So they're going to be bringing in the Arcanoi from the Dark Kingdom of Jade sourcebook, and also from the Doomslayer sourcebook to give you more power options, and also to update those rules based on the experience of the past 20 years. And then coming up, they're going to be putting out the Book of Oblivion. So this is going to be another one of their kind of anthology source books, where with the different stretch goals that we cover in the Kickstarter itself, they put in basically extra chapters into this book and slowly expand upon it. It's something that they did with the Dark Ages Kickstarter, and I think it turned out very well. And it seems like the Dark Ages book, the Dark Ages anthology that they're going to be putting out, is going to be fairly hefty, but it's easier than having all these individual source books that they're going to have to be putting out for the next 2 or 3 years, which is kind of what we've been seeing with Werewolf 20th and that Kickstarter. So I think it gives them a way to streamline things overall. So pretty cool stretch goals overall. And actually, I need to have another side tangent here, but Rich Thomas, I know you might be listening to this, and maybe if you're not, maybe someone will just kind of link you to this. But Rich, I think there's something you got to do with this book, and it's the perfect stretch goal. Perfect. Okay. It's a cool, thick black leather book. Looks phenomenal. You're gonna put silver gilding on the page edges? Nah, Rich, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. This is Wraith, and one of the coolest things with Wraith First Edition was the fact that the front cover glowed in the dark. So here's what you got to do: glow in the dark page edging. Come on, you'll just wake up in the middle of the night, look over at your bookshelf, and that one Wraith book will just be glowing, subtly tempting you. Oh, it would be perfect. Think about it, Rich. Think about it.
So, all the stretch goals we've gone through, I'm just looking through, those are all free to all backers. Which ones are? Because sometimes stretch goals...
The T-shirts are not free to all
obviously
backers.
Not, yeah. Obviously, I mean the book content, sort of T-shirts. But all the kind of written content, that's to all backers, is it?
Yes, I believe.
Yes,
yep,
is.
It is. They do have the
cool.
add-ons that you can get. So for
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find those on the Kickstarter page.
For $5, you can get a couple of fiction books from the original Wraith line. For $10, you can get the Player's Guide and the Shadow Player's Guide, all as PDFs, of course. For $15, you can get Wraith, the Oblivion First and Second Edition core books. For $20, they will give you the setting PDFs. For $25, you can get an additional PDF of the 20th Anniversary Edition. Or for $25, you can get 4 faction PDFs, the Book of Legions, Renegades, Doomslayers, and the Hierarchy. For $30 add-on, you can get all 6 of the guild books, which is a pretty good investment right there, because I enjoy the guild books. For $75, you get 20th Anniversary Edition versions of Vampire, Werewolf, and Mage. And for $150, you can get every single classic Wraith game line PDF that is currently available from Drive-Thru RPG.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Which I believe is the entirety of the game line.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. It is. Cool. So, boom, that's Wraith right there. But I think there's something else we got to discuss. We got to do a little analysis here, Chigg. What does this herald for Changeling the Dreaming 20th? What kind of vibe does this give you? Because, when you look back at Changeling, that's another game that never got a revised edition. And there's, when you look at it, a lot of different rules, a lot of different conflicting systems. How are they going to bring it all into one 20th anniversary book? What's your gut instinct right here?
My gut instinct or my hope?
Give me your hope, Chigg.
My hope is that since they have Jackie Casada and Nikki Ray back working on Wraith here, and since they were Changeling line developers for a while, that they can get those two together to revise Changeling for its 20th anniversary, just like Wraith is finally being revised here for its 20th anniversary, and that they can bring everything together under a sleek and unified rule set. That's my dream.
Unified rule set. That's the operative phrase right there. Because when you look at Changeling, there's a lot of different kits, a lot of different, pseudo kits as well.
Every splat has its own character generation rules and differences, and yeah, I know it's my favorite setting, but it gets ridiculous after a while.
Indeed. So, Chigg, when you look at the different sub kits, pseudo kits, and all of that, is there a particular one that you like the system of, that you think like, hey, this is actually a pretty slick system which might work to unify all the different kits and how you could play them in a universal fashion?
Well, most of them are just variations on the second edition kith system found in the core book. The Nanehi, the Hawaiian guys, Menehune, and most of the others, the Thalane, are just variations on that theme. If they wanted to go ahead and make the the Adhene use that same system instead of giving them three a tripartite soul instead of a bilateral soul like everybody else, then that would solve quite a few of my issues. And of course, they can just dump the Shin because those aren't changelings to begin with.
Interesting. And when you look at Changeling, is there anything you'd hope they'd include as, say, like an appendix or something like that? Would you really want to see Dark Ages Fae appendix in your Changeling 20th?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Keep that garbage away from Changeling.
Whoa, hey, that's a little harsh right there. I mean...
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people out there who enjoyed Dark Ages Fae. I haven't ever actually met one of them, but I'm sure they exist. But yeah, it has as much to do with Changeling as 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons does. They're just not related in the slightest.
No, it's quite true.
The real question that we need to ask, though,
is
when are we going to see the 20th anniversary edition of Street Fighter?
Ah, damn, you're right, because that was 94 or 95. That's coming up soon. Oh,
exactly.
Chigg. I mean, that game... I know someone that played it. They actually played it. Wait, what?
I played it.
No, Chigg.
Oh yeah, my one of my best friends in high school had all the books.
All
he
the
ran
books. It. No, wait. What'd you do? Did you just go to a fight tournament and fight people?
Yeah. Basically, that was the thrust of the game, as it were. There was some, like, my sister had been kidnapped or something. That was my character's motivation, so I had to, fight the forces of Shadow Lu, or whatever the country was called.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a high school lunchroom game, basically.
Nice. Cool. So, well, I think that's pretty much it for Wraith and Changeling. Do we have anything else we need to discuss? Chris, you got any ideas or opinions or stuff you'd like to see?
Not really. I think it's the one thing that I will mostly back it. I think, seeing how much is coming out with stretch goals and so forth. So, and of all, I think it's the most interesting in the sense that I think there's a lot I can port over to Geist, the Sin Eaters, just with random ideas. So, I see it as potentially being the most useful of the Old World of Darkness 20th anniversaries to anything for New World of Darkness in that sense. Because a map of Stygia, I mean, that's an entire domain in Geist, so that would be pretty wicked.
That's true. That would be a pretty cool place to explore in the underworld.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Was there ever a Wraith to Sin Eater's translation guide?
I don't believe so, no.
I don't think so.
Not yet, at least. They might come out with something. I'm still waiting for that demon translation guide. Come on, get on it, Matt McFarland.
They mentioned it at Gen Con this year. I'm fairly positive that was this year.
I'm sure they suggested they were going to bring it out before Demon the Sun had even been released. And, yeah. And like we said, we've not heard anything of it since.
We probably have it. It's probably like in editing in the Monday meeting notes.
Yeah.
I just need to go check that out. Cool. All right. I think that's pretty much it for Wraith. I'm pretty pumped. Definitely going to be interesting. Actually, with all these other 20th anniversaries, they've mentioned like a introductory adventure or something like that to be coming out, and they haven't announced that for Wraith, and I think that's actually a hole or a void that really should be filled for this game line. Just a quick, easy way for people to get into the game and explore the setting.
Well, you said that you wanted to play more White Wolf games in the new year. Maybe you could write a quick and easy introductory Wraith game.
Chigg, is that a challenge?
It sounded like a challenge, didn't it?
Well, Chigg, challenge accepted. And with that, let's go on over to the secret frequency.
It's under the stairs. I want my mom.
So, for this Solstice issue of Darker Days, considering the date we are recording on, we will be bringing you the legend of Jack Frost. Now, Jack Frost is not just some cute little kid who saves Santa or some nonsense like that. Jack Frost has a legend, a mythology that dates back far further. So, in Norse folklore, Jack Frost is an elf who embodies crisp and cold winter weather, and he is apparently the son of the winds. He's of course was popular in Anglo-Saxon and Norse winter customs, and he is referred to as Jokul Frosti, or the Icicle Frost. He is believed to be the one that makes all the fern-like crystal patterns, the one who creates icicles, who creates all the strange ice-like formations that we see in winter. He's the one that leaves behind the frosty glitter that we see on grass and upon the leaves of plants in the morning. And his portrayal as that is often as an invisible spirit who you can't hear, you can't touch, but you can certainly feel as his cold breath penetrates through your flesh into your bones. Now, he's typically considered to be rather friendly and jolly. However, if provoked, he can and will kill his victims by covering them with snow. Now, of course, Jack Frost in modern times lives on being sort of a Frost King and being also known as the Jolly Rogue, and seen as something of a contemporary to Santa Claus, and also sometimes maybe being an antagonist to him, because of course he is a bit of a rogue and a rascal in that sense. And of course he's also depicted as having the power to freeze shadows and split them from their owners, making them into living entities. And so of course he then lives on in more modern folklore and tales and fairy tales in particular. So, how can we make use of Jack Frost in our games? Chigg.
Yeah, he kind of cries out to be a changeling there, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he's certainly a changeling. I mean, I would say, for me personally, he could be a particular title for a changeling in Changeling the Lost. So a particular title within the Court of Winter. So literally, it could be the name that is given to the Winter King as the court cycle. So that's one idea, I think, there. Another thing is it could be kind of a type of a class of kind of rogue winter courtiers.
Does he
sort of like the I was going to say sort of like the what are they called, the Scarecrow. What's her name? Scarecrow something or other, who are also autumn courtiers who go about causing trouble. So it would be interesting. It may be therefore an entitlement. So a type of that, as you get it, you get more particular powers. Maybe an entire selection of more ice-themed contracts.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
You know, I think he actually would fit very well as a Winter Fae from Dark Ages Fae. And I just keep wanting to mention this game just because it kind of grates Chigg a little bit. But it's very interesting that the Winter...
What would he do during the rest of the day?
Well, please, let me explain. The Winter Court and Dark Ages Fae are actually the very warlike and ferocious court. They have a lot of like the winter trolls and that sort of thing. So it seems to me that he could fit very well as something similar to that court, as opposed to Changeling the Lost, where the Winter Court is all about avoidance and hiding away. So I just thought that might be a kind of relevant point.
He's an easy spirit for any game, really. So New World of Darkness or Classic World of Darkness. So he could literally be the spirit of winter. And in that sense, then you can use him as a kind of a plot point where winter is somehow out of sync or something is wrong with it, and that's due to some sort of perversion of the spiritual balance in the Hissel or in the Shadow, in the Umbra, and that way then you've got potentially a very powerful spirit that could become a totem even for a pack of werewolves.
Yeah, he definitely mixes very well with the Snowbrides, which are a kind of antagonist that are in the New World of Darkness book Midnight Roads. The Snowbrides being these kind of winter creatures that lure, in almost like a siren fashion, lure travelers off of the road and into the wilderness, into the cold, snowy backwoods, where they torture and suck the heat out of individuals. He could very easily be an opposing force, or perhaps an ally to them. And if you want to have sort of a snow-themed adventure for the holidays, those are two pretty cool antagonists to use.
Who doesn't like Christmas episodes?
Yep.
He also has kind of a very, if you want to get ideas for how to kind of portray him, you can look to, because of course in the modern literature they say like how he apparently can kidnap children. So you you could look to the Child Snatcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, because obviously he has the portrayal of the Child Snatcher there is by I can't remember his name, but he's actually a ballet dancer, so he has a very particular way of moving. And that then leads into a very weird series of adverts that were shown in the UK ages ago. They're renowned as being quite good at, renowned as scaring children a lot. These adverts, so they were on like they're on like the top 100 list of scariest things ever. And it's basically just look on YouTube for the Judder Man, and it's an advert for an alcohol drink called I think it's called Metz or something like that. Anyway, the Judder Man, and again he's got a very kind of Jack Frost kind of appearance in the way he moves. I think it would be really useful for getting a good in your mind's eye how to portray this character.
Interesting. You know, I think Jack Frost could actually be a cool vampire character. In that there's this
breath stealer, maybe.
Indeed, there's actually this cool subsect of sort of removing Lithuanian Tremere in Dark Ages, known as the Trelia Velik Tremere, and he could fit in very well with them. Could be kind of an interesting way to portray a very unique individual within that bloodline.
His ability, the more modern things, the power to free shadows and split them from their owners, is interesting. That'll almost and also ties in with possibly with the La Sombra, maybe. either as being one of the La Sombra or also someone that could technically be a rival to them. That's quite kind of interesting there. I can't really think of anything in particular for mage other than obviously, in mage you could just have a mage that's, ice magic is their kind of modus operandi there, so you can fit it in how you like there. And then, can I think of anything for Promethean? Not really. I'm sure there's a way you could possibly work something in there. I mean, again, Jack Frost could be a particular Promethean who died. His original human form died out in the snowy wastes, and then he was brought back by some traveling alchemist who, into this person, into that room, into that cadaver, put the primordial fire, and so this Promethean is in some way tied to the element of, the elemental ice in that way.
Yeah, it could be cool. I think actually in Promethean, he'd be very interesting, just to be this sort of NPC that the Throng would interact with. Being as he seems like he's rather soulless in many ways, he could be a very good foil to some of the other human individuals that they run into.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good selection of ideas. I have no way. I don't think he fits in with Mummy whatsoever.
I was trying to think of something.
Any of the other ones. Yeah, I'm sure there's mostly equivalent legends where you can make Jack Frost into something that's more fitting with kind of the local mythology of a particular country, though it's sometimes often quite hard to research. So whether there's something that fits more with China or Japan, maybe. Because again, Japan's got a particular kind of ghost legend, which I'll just briefly mention. I don't know whether we mentioned this before. It's something called the Yuki Onna, which is a spirit or yokai from Japanese mythology. It means snow girl or snow wench or snow hag, which actually is quite similar then in some respects to what you were saying, Mike, from the stuff from Midnight Roads. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the spirit of someone that perished in the snow, said to be beautiful and serene, yet is a ruthless killer. That's kind of a very ghostly snow kind of grudge ring cycle kind of depiction you could go for. And again, appears to travelers trapped in snowstorms and use her icy breath to leave them as frost-coated corpses. So, and there's also some stuff where she can manifest as holding a child, which leads to the parents. There's just some various other weird things. So she's also quite succubi-like or vampiric. So again, there's ways you can maybe find a way of portraying a similar entity in that local area.
Nice. Well, guys, I just looked outside and it's starting to snow out, so I'm getting a little nervous here. Maybe we should move on to the next segment.
Mm-hmm.
World of Darkness 2.0.
So the next segment we're going to cover Demon the Descent, and in particular we're going to do a kind of a brief overview review of Flowers of Hell, which is the Demon the Descent Player's Guide, and also look in more detail maybe, or give some ideas on how to make use of infrastructure in your game, and also the cipher we've been asked about on our Facebook page, if we can give some more ideas or insight into that. So, Mike, have you had a look at Flowers of Hell at all?
Nope.
Okay, so Flowers of Hell is pretty much like the Blood or similar books for New World of Darkness. So it's a proper good player's guide, which gets really into in chapter 1. You've got a good insight into what it is to be like a demon, because there's some very particular things about them. How you can throw off your cover and show your true demonic form, the fact that you can understand any and all languages perfectly and speak them, and then also kind of what it must feel like to be this complex quantum mechanical transdimensional entity that is forced into this material body and how that must feel. So the moment of what the fall must feel like. And then there's a whole thing about covers and acquiring those in particular ways and compromises to them. So really, it does, as a book, it does well on expanding a lot of the sections that we've seen already in the main core book. The later chapters I'll just kind of look towards. We have chapter 4 has gadgets, which is just a really big grab bag of things which demons can empower. So this really expands the options of gameplay for them, and it gives you how to create those and how gadgets can have embeds kind of installed into them or exploits. So really, they're kind of a way of enchanting items in that way. Again, there's lots and lots and lots of things there, but I'll admit I've really not gone into that too much, because often when you see things like that, to me it's just, here's more stuff the player's going to use before really maybe you've understood how to play the game properly or how to kind of portray the characters. So all I'll say about that is there's a lot of interesting, neat ideas that you can use within the game or to create an entire story about, if it's some gadget of monumental power that may be a clue to a cipher or to a key for a demon to proceed in its descent. The chapters which I think are more interesting than overall, other than the first one, which is about what it is like to be a demon, is chapter 2, which is hacking the God Machine. So this is about more information on infrastructure. And chapter 3, which is embeds, exploits, demonic form abilities, and then how that interfaces with like the cipher. So what can we say about infrastructure? So I think we mentioned a lot about infrastructure all the way back when we reviewed the God Machine Chronicles, when that first came out. Infrastructure comes in for a few classes. We've got concealment, defense, elimination, logistical, command and control. And these are all kind of tools and layers for the God Machine to create an occult matrix. So an occult matrix is essentially something that bringing together resources and elements and items and people at the right moment or moments to cause something to happen, for something to come into being, for something to be drawn into our world or removed, that in some way benefits the God Machine. Now, I think the main issue that a lot of people have with this is really what does the God Machine want? Because the God Machine is this huge eldritch entity from the outer darkness that is incredibly difficult to really imagine, understand, or think about what it wants. So I think the key thing for any chronicle is maybe to come up with at least one occult matrix, which is going to be the key kind of plot point of the chronicle. Whether the occult matrix does what it's meant to do or not is another thing entirely. And then also maybe come up with another two which you haven't detailed as much, but you've got some idea of what infrastructures are linked together in there. And I think that's the main thing, is coming up with this network of infrastructures and how they interact. So, Mike, what do you think so far with what you know of Demon and what you've read? I mean, is that your gut feeling where maybe Demon is seems difficult to run initially because you have to kind of think what about these infrastructures and what they're doing?
You know, I actually kind of disagree, Chris. When it comes to infrastructure, I almost want to say, just come up with a bunch of cool ideas. Just come up with this dartboard of different infrastructure, and don't try to figure out how they all interact, because it's really supposed to be beyond mortal comprehension. It's this bizarre entity that's created the infrastructure over millennia, and is just something that you as the player characters are stumbling upon. So I think you should really just come up with a bunch of cool ideas, for different things that exist. But don't worry too much about.
Fine.
Yep.
I was going to say I think that's fine for a Mortals game, but I don't think that works as well for Demon, because for Demon, the whole thing is you may be exposed. You as a demon, you can recognize infrastructure more easily because you're innately tuned to this. So, and for demons, the key thing is not only it's not just eliminating infrastructure, but there's also a lot about taking over infrastructure. So, again, going back to chapter 1 in Fires of Hell, it goes through about what it is like to be a saboteur, a tempter, an inquisitor, all these different types of of demons, and also how your ring forms and how your ring of demons, your group of demons, acts within their city or where they are with the governing agendas and what they're going out to do. So, and of course then a critical resource is taking over and using infrastructures. Now, what you've said about coming up with some cool ones, which aren't really attached to anything, is good if you want something which you just want to be a plot point where you've got some factions trying to, fight over to take something that they can use for their larger plans. So, because infrastructures can become abandoned and forgotten or halfway finished. But also, I think to give the idea of kind of like this Byzantine kind of layers of intrigue, then to have some sort of working kind of map of how some of these infrastructure are all interlinked and and to give an idea of this huge goal, or at least give a sense that there is something they're all working towards. I think it's important to reinforce that the God Machine is doing something with all these infrastructure.
Okay, I think that's fine. Now, when you're coming up with the organization, how these different infrastructure interact, how specific do you really need to be? Could you really just say that perhaps this one rail station that leaks etheric resonance is connected to a power plant with a techno-organic heart beating in the middle? Can you just say that there's a connection, or do you really have to figure out what's going on?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think you can make a detailed kind of connection. So obviously you could have. So I wrote up like an example one, which the idea of like the God Machine is seeking to eliminate a person from reality simply because he wants their entire, not just that person gone, but their entire ancestry gone, because he wants to bring into our reality a paradox spirit, which I think is kind of interesting for the God Machine to want to make use of for some reason. And of course then in that list of infrastructure there's how it's going to do that, like what bits it's making. And I think you can go into a lot of detail with that, but I don't think you always have to. So again, with kind of some of these other ones which you don't know what they're quite connected to, I don't think you need as much detail because it may not fit into something that is as immediate to where the characters are located. So what I mean is like the infrastructure you're interacting with is actually maybe a part of a larger plan that covers multiple cities. So you may not be in the position as a ring of demons to go off to all these different cities to start, messing with the plans there. So you may not need to put in as much detail there. Whereas if you've got a lot of infrastructure that are all operating locally towards a single goal, then I think detailing how things interact is maybe more important there.
Okay. Well, how about we illustrate with your example, Chris, and see if that can kind of guide both myself and our listeners to
yes,
kind of illustrate how to design infrastructure.
Okay, so my concept, because this was just literally over the last 2 days, was the idea that the God Machine, for whatever reason, wants to summon a paradox spirit, which it seems kind of mental. No idea what it would want to use the paradox spirit. It may need to use it in order to bring about the summoning of a particular angel that it wants to create. So the idea is this: it want that in order to do this, we need to the God Machine needs to create these 4 mirrors, which are basically going to be created from ectoplasm, and they're placed in what seems like a very normal building basement, essentially where the God Machine kind of intrudes itself, where the God Machine itself intrudes more upon reality, and by having the person that's been watching for so long step between the mirrors, they and their kind of entire ancestry, their entire bloodline, are eliminated from reality. Now, its choice of person to do this has to be in such a way that they're not an obvious person, so it doesn't ruin the timeline as it is, but it's enough of an intrusion onto reality that it causes the coming of this paradox spirit. So I've already said that there's these mirrors made of ectoplasm, so the idea is that the God Machine needs to have somewhere where ectoplasm is gained from and then turned into these mirrors. It then also has this person that it's been watching, who it's kind of specifically selected that it wants to eliminate. And that already then gives us the setup that you've got some things that need to be created, and then they're going to be created or protected by other things, which then in turn have to be protected, created, and hidden. So let's start with the main making of the mirrors themselves. So that would come under what's known as a logistical infrastructure. And so the idea for this is that there's some factory in the outskirts of, I've just chosen Paris as a city, where workers are working there with a lot of machinery that still looks like machinery, but the way the piping and everything, it kind of looks more organic in nature. And it's bringing in large amounts of, I say large amounts, it's bringing in ectoplasm, which it's fed through this machinery until at the very end you get these sheets of glass, which to begin with, these sheets of glass which will form the mirrors, they kind of have the moving, screaming faces of the dead across them. Other abnormal things about the machinery of the factory is that it seems like whatever's pumping through the machinery to lubricate it or something like that seems to smell like or be like inconsistently like amniotic fluids. And then once you have this infrastructure, so you know that it's making these mirrors, you've then got to choose, well, what is the linchpin? What is the thing that if that part of the factory is damaged or destroyed in some way, that this entire use of the infrastructure would fall apart, and that the God Machine would have to dramatically change its plans. And so the linchpin here, I thought, rather simple, is simply the vat where the ectoplasm is kept and it's churned, and the churning of this is almost literally by the God Machine itself. And so this ectoplasm takes the form of a luminous green fluid that, when it's solidified, goes dark. Of course, part of this, the control of this very important piece of infrastructure, is that there is an angel, which I've simply called the Forge, who oversees the factory, and he's a psychopomp, so he is controlling and maintaining things that are coming into the factory and going out of the factory, or that the final things that are created are protected until they're needed, and he takes them to their final site where this strange reality shaping will take place. So, Mike and Chigg, what do you think of that as an initial concept?
I definitely think that's a pretty good way of looking at it. You start off with what the goal is, what the God Machine would probably want to achieve, and then you just design your infrastructure around that, and kind of come up with some cool, sort of occult feeling ideas and objects based on that. Yeah.
Obviously, this crazy kind of mirror making factory needs to be protected, and there's two ways you can go about that. You've got concealment infrastructure, which is kind of like the least intrusive form of infrastructure in the setting, and often the most easily one that's taken over by demons. And also then you've got defense infrastructure, which obviously is far more aggressive in what it does. So for concealment infrastructure, I took simply an idea, just thought, I know, let's just go for a classic kind of what film am I thinking of right now? Inception. And the idea that the way to get to the factory, so the ectoplasm is being brought in, stored in, it's kept in some van, and it's driven in. They get these shipments every so often, and the ectoplasm, the van that's carrying the ectoplasm has to drive a very particular circuit through the streets of Paris to get to the factory. So the factory could literally be hidden in the very middle of Paris, but you don't know it's there because the way the road system has been manipulated and the reality has been manipulated, that it's folded in on itself in a very non-Euclidean way. So if you know the circuit, you know the way to drive through the streets, then you would be able to get to the factory. But if you don't know that, then no one else knows how to get there. The linchpin for this, of course, is that there is a map stored in City Hall which details the true street network of Paris and that area, and also has then detailed the shortcut that allows you to get through this kind of like maze to get to the factory. So you could then even bypass any of the defense infrastructure that lies along this circuit. So in that way, it kind of takes some ideas from Inception. It also takes some ideas from kind of the Matrix films, where you have shortcuts that kind of go around the defense, so a backdoor of sorts. And of course, along this backdoor is mostly the route that the workers in the factory take as they go back and forth from the factory and back home to maintain some level of normality in the lives they've been taken from, and also for the Angel to move in and out quickly as well. So what do you think of that idea?
It's interesting, and I like it. I want to see where else you're going to go with this.
Okay, so along the actual route to the factory, though, is obviously layered with defense infrastructure, and this is I thought cameras, CCTV, that seems to be the main form of comes up, or they've also got in detailed in Flowers of Hell the idea that the police in the area. The police for a particular defensive infrastructure are armed with tasers, and these tasers, though, are fine against humans, but they actually cause aggravated damage against demons. So I had to think about it, and I thought, well, it's going along a particular route, so why not just speed traps? And the speed traps are just simple cameras that are able to detect ether as it flows along them. Ether as demons pass the speed traps. And these are all wired to a central office building, which is outside of the folded network of roads. And within that server room is a chamber which stores a Angel who is of the destroyer type. So he's essentially the next part of infrastructure, which is elimination, which goes out, and he will either, if things go bad, either take out the demons or take out the factory. So again, he would be the linchpin there. The things I've not said so far about the infrastructures, and that's a good point to say, is that also the main things to do with the infrastructures is you can detail is how characters will come across and what skills are important, or how a demon could possibly take over that infrastructure and use it for their own purposes. Or the other important thing about these infrastructures is if they are corrupted or usurped, is what would the God Machine do in order to kind of get around that, and what its redundancies are, and also is where does ether, this energy which angels don't use, the God Machine doesn't use, but demons use, how does that store up? So in the case of the mirror making factory, well, there's going to be waste chemicals from that factory. Well, that's going to store ether. That's very simple. Where the map is stored in City Hall, there could just be the ether there is stored literally in all the other maps that are made based upon this map, which has been used as the main blueprint for the city network. So all other maps that then reference that and that maintain that concealment infrastructure, all those maps have ether embedded into them. For the defense infrastructure, the simple thing is the server room. So the server room has to be cooled. So there is where the coolant is, that builds up ether that has to be ejected out from the building and simply in the heat sink. And so again, demons can make use of that to gain ether to repower themselves. I also like the idea that, within that server room, there's this almost like a cryo chamber with some destroyer angel,
just ready to go on tap.
But this room is in a building, and no one knows. It could be kind of like that, kind of like 13th floor kind of thing, where it's a floor that no one knows that's there, or it's a room that's just folded in that no one notices because the door is somehow has some sort of arcane geometric kind of sigil on it, which means people don't see that door unless they can see past the God Machine's concealment. So that's kind of like, I think, sets up the factory itself. And then the next stage is, well, they've got to get this ectoplasm. So I thought, okay, Paris has a lot of famous graveyards. So the idea is that the way that this ectoplasm is being gained is through Avernian gates. And so the God Machine has a cult. This cult is mostly led by some angel or managed by some angel. So maybe a guardian angel or maybe a psychopomp. I'm not too sure which would be the best there. And the cult is basically directed to sacrifice someone before the Avernian gate in order to cause a burst of death energy, essentially, to cause the gate to open up. The cult, though, sacrificed them in a particular way, which is to use a circular saw to cut their skull open. And what this does is the ghosts burst forth from the Avernian gate. They do this at a particular time at night. So I said midnight, for example, but it could be at a particular time. Something less like midnight, because it has to be like when, literally the digits or the very bytes within this watch have to sync up, because the God Machine is very machine-like in that sense. And so the ghosts burst forth from the Avernian gate. Some of the ghosts obviously get away and they go cause hauntings and so forth, which is a good way of bringing in demons into the game if they're seeing all this going on and it's happening, and these hauntings occurring on a very regular basis. And the body of the victim of the sacrifice, though, because they've been killed in a particular way, draws in ghosts. So it almost like the ghosts are kind of trapped within that body. Multiple ghosts are trapped in that body. And then the cult has to take that body away, liquefy the body, and that's what creates this liquefied ectoplasm. The ectoplasm has to be transported in a van. So again, that could be another bit of logistical infrastructure, because you've got a particular van that has a box in it to keep the ectoplasm in. It has to be cooled, and the refrigerant is literally blood. And so I thought for the mining of the ectoplasm, I call it mining, the linchpin is the circular saw, because it's almost like a ritualized creation. It was created by the angel that oversees all this infrastructure. And the ether builds up in the blood that is spilt from the sacrifice. So how's that? I mean, that draws on some ideas from Geist, essentially, with the Avernian gates and so forth. But I think it pulls in other stuff into Demon, which isn't demons and angels, and it's interesting to see how demons would interact with ghosts.
Yeah, no, I think actually kind of leads into a good point where you can look at how to use infrastructure, but also bring in other aspects of the World of Darkness. The God Machine doesn't need to always have some like super being from another dimension being defending their infrastructure or interacting with it. It could be very easy for an angel to coerce, let's say, a vampire to just curate the infrastructure and to do certain things, create certain chemical symbols, or do some particular thaumaturgy, let's say, to keep an infrastructure running.
You could definitely see an angel almost suggesting, so you've got a messenger angel could be suggesting something to Architects of the Monolith, who are a group of vampires in Vampire the Requiem to the messenger go, oh well, you're going to build the buildings like that. Well, why don't you build them like this? And so it's actually an improvement on their geometric kind of architecture, but in such a way that it actually benefits the god machine, or at least it hides even more stuff. So even these vampires who are Masonic in nature don't even recognize the occult significance of how their plans have been altered. That would be really neat, actually. I would possibly put that into this idea somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the God Machine, of course, for all of these things, maybe not for the cult. The cult, I think, maybe is just gained through a messenger angel kind of picking on people that seem crazy enough to do that. But for the factory, it needs workers. And so it does this by doing, there's a setup where it has potential workers are identified using data from the city records, and it has an education facility somewhere. So this is a building that apparently is a recruitment building for, you can just make up what you want really there, but there's nothing apparently important about it. And at the center of this is a group of people that have been fused in some way to a telephone line connection board or server or something like that. And they're the ones that in a very mechanical way are cold calling people until it gets a response from someone that will come into this building. And at that building, that person, after they go through certain layers of defense within the building to obviously root out stigmatics and other supernatural entities and of course demons, if a person passes through enough of that, they are then obviously mind-wipe brainwashed and become a worker for the factory. Though they then act in a way that if when they go to the factory, they work at the factory like a typical little drone, and when they leave it and return home, they resume their normal lives as if they haven't even left their old job. So again, the linchpin within the recruitment center is the connection room itself. The ether builds up in the discarded paperwork, which is used to maintain the fabrication that these workers' lives still carry on as normal. And then the next thing, because we want a bit more variety in some of our infrastructure, is a piece of elimination infrastructure. Because of course these workers, these drones, are going to break down. They are going to realize what they're doing, and the God Machine doesn't need them going off and alerting other things to what is going on. So the workers, if they become compromised in some way, have their obituary written in a paper, a particular paper, the day before they actually are meant to die. And so an angel known as the Mugger, who lives in a particular train station in the tube network of Paris, he then obviously checks the newspapers from the local. The Mugger basically is kind of like a homeless man who checks the newspapers at the nearby newsagent. And so the papers come in, and then he checks them. He checks the obituary, and if there is nothing in there that signals to him to kill a certain person, then he doesn't do anything. But then obviously the signal comes up, he goes off and he kills that drone. Of course, what then means the linchpin here is that if none of those papers, no issues of those papers reach the Mugger, so it's kind of like the psychopomp angel at the factory will pass this obituary through the newspaper as a message, and that's the message to this elimination angel. So if this Mugger doesn't get that message, it means that these workers go off and they're now a chaotic, remained residual in the God Machine's plans, and then ether in this case builds up in the train tracks near this angel, and potentially the ether could build up in any of the people that survive from having not been eliminated due to sheer luck, because they're a chaotic element. So the ether amongst them could build up to a critical point, which then could cause some sort of backlash through the system. Maybe the Mugger Angel realizes he should have killed all these people, and the backlash of that ether is what actually causes the Mugger, this angel, this Destroyer Angel, to fall, as he realizes he's failed at his task. Mike, any more ideas? Chigg, any more ideas? Or any more places that you can see you could add on infrastructure and how it would connect to other bits, or how to make certain infrastructure a bit weirder? Because I think sometimes that's a difficult thing, is making these things even stranger.
Making it even stranger, I mean, I don't know, just go check out a David Lynch film and just grab random things from it. That could work pretty well. No, I'm coming up with a couple ideas, just kind of like side tangents for like interesting game designs. If you go back and listen to our Zero Frequency on the Denver International Airport, a lot of that stuff could work pretty well as just being this very strange imagery to work into your game and come up with some pretty cool infrastructure. That would actually be a great place to just set a one-shot or something, or one leg of your adventure.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I've not really gone into with this, because it's possibly a bit harder, but it's also meant to be the type of infrastructure that is the least seen, and most demons have never seen, is command and control infrastructure. So this is the idea of the prospect of demons spying on or changing the god machine's thoughts. So this kind of infrastructure is essentially kind of like, again, where the god machine kind of intrudes on reality the most, and is the means by which it gains input and output and makes decisions. So I think there's some opportunity there for very large cosmic scale games of a command control infrastructure could literally be some company or some power plant or such like. It has the opportunity of being something very large or very small. I think it's the most difficult one to work into a game, but then it's the least important to make the game playable and to feel like it has depth.
When you've been going over this, it strikes me that the God Machine sounds a lot like a darker version of the Weaver from Werewolf.
Yeah, I think we've made that analogy before. Where the Quashmal, the Quashelim angels in Promethean are agents of change, evolution, chaos, and entropy, because you've got the two types of Quashelim, and they're very different angels to those of the God Machine. And the God Machine is very much, control and order, and I think this is the kind of stuff which I think would even work. I don't know, it'd be kind of interesting to work into a technocracy game. You could imagine a group of technocrats that have gone Nafandi. This would seem like the type of stuff they'd be up to.
The Special Projects Division.
Yes, Special Projects would do this type of stuff. Any other ideas where you can see on this kind of example where you could add things in? What would be interesting? What would be another thread that I've not detailed there, which would be you would have to kind of expand upon and add a further layer to the mystery?
Oh, I'm not sure. You seem to have covered quite a bit there. Let's see.
I think there's a bit to do with
the mortal workers.
Yes,
seem to be. I mean, they're very important to the plan. I mean, somebody has to go there and flip the switches and pour the molds and all that. But they also seem like maybe the weakest link in the chain.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the easiest way for a demon group to disrupt the machinations would be just to cause that bus of workers to break down on an important day or something.
No way, Chigg. You need to get them to unionize.
No. It's set in France. I mean, they already have
unions.
unions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's some room to expand upon the cult and how the cult is formed and expanded by a messenger angel. And what I would then do with this being used as a setting is I would basically try and create another occult matrix or two, just to kind of like add some kind of red herrings, some maybe. Well, I would say when I say occult matrix, I mean ideas for infrastructure that could be existing side by side, because then you then get the thing where a group of demons could be going like, well, what? Why are we always, we keep, they realize and there's these cold calls that have been going on and people disappearing and the timing of the disappearances and when people are getting called to work at this particular place. And then they intrude upon it, and of course the recruitment center gets shut down and the God Machine has to set up a new one somewhere. So that would be a messenger angel coming in and developing up that recruitment center again. Or there's already another recruitment center because it's already there's a redundancy already built in, and so an elimination angel comes in and takes out the recruitment center. But the interesting thing would be then if you've got some more networks of infrastructure built up is when demons start trying to work out, a group of player demons trying to work out, well, how does that interrelate with that? When players see patterns that aren't actually there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be then when things get more interesting, because then if there's an infrastructure in something which they're not intrinsically tied to, like they're seeking to stop the elimination of this person for whatever reason, or they've noticed this kind of the connection within this set of infrastructure, but then they realize there's this other set of infrastructure, and trying to see perceive how it's connected. But that then also means they're intruding on another group of demons who want to take over that infrastructure rather than destroy it. So you get the clash of agendas there, and also the clash of different demon types and what they see they want to get out of reality. The other thing I've mostly not noted on here to expand upon is the person that the God Machine wants to eliminate has to be eliminated at the precise time. So the God Machine can't have that person die before the mirrors are ready. So there is a guardian angel that looks over that person, who obviously protects that person. And that is, again, you can have a whole linchpin within that. Yeah. So I think that covers some ideas or an example of infrastructure. Do we have anything more to say about it?
Nope.
Not I.
But I think the infrastructure's kind of come out of this quite quickly once you have an idea for an occult matrix. And I think the weirder the occult matrix you can get, the better the layers of infrastructure you will get. Because I think the idea of this factory making mirrors from ectoplasm is interesting, but how much more weirder can you get with what the God Machine is making or what it's bringing in? Like, is it harvesting people? Is it fueling some beating heart at the center of some nuclear power plant? Is it gestating an angel within the bowels of a nuclear Promethean held within the center of some underground facility? And then, of course, you've got stigmatics. So, obviously, people that have maybe encountered these infrastructure have somehow become changed. Okay, so moving on from that, I mean, a big portion of, a good chapter of Flowers of Hell covers infrastructure and using it and taking it over and building agencies, which are, the groups of essentially you could say like covenants within Vampire that kind of fulfill that kind of role. So in chapter 3 we get about embeds and exploits. So again we get another big grab bag of more powers and more things a demon can do. We get more demonic form abilities, so those aren't exploits and they aren't embeds, are the things that naturally kind of occur for demons. And then we get about embeds. So embeds are built-in hacks within reality, and they are I think that they're very different to innate. They're really different in nature to what mages do. Mages are hackers within the setting, whereas demons already come from the system, and so they already know how to bend the system. They also know what back doors there are. So embeds are more like back doors, and they aren't easily learned. So the whole point is that you can't really teach embeds through tomes. They can't be written down and follow a recipe. They're things that have to be kind of shown to be used, and that by showing how they're used, you slowly nudge a demon to learn that embed. And the important thing why I'm bringing up embeds in particular here is that embeds are tied to the cipher. So the cipher is this kernel of knowledge that when a demon interlinks for the correct embeds that it's learned together, each connection between its embeds creates an interlock. It then reveals this final secret of the cipher, which gives the demon some form of insight into its descent. Mike, I'm going to go back to you. So what's your opinion of the cipher from what you know already from Demon Descent? And then I'll expand a bit on what's said in Flowers of Hell, hopefully.
I thought you were going to be explaining the cipher to me, because I don't remember much about it.
Okay, I will go through. So in Flowers of Hell, they go through that the cipher is is given some mystical importance by some demons. Other demons don't see it as that. They see it as just some sort of mechanical thing you have to work out. And once you do, as a demon, in some way, you operate more efficiently, more powerfully. And so the important thing is that the cipher is a final secret that is in some way, that is in no way actually tied to the God Machine. So the God Machine does not determine the cipher for a demon, nor does it determine the interlocks between the embeds. So this is I would say, is an element of chaos that becomes part of a demon upon its fall, which the God Machine did not put into the demon. So it's something from outside of the system, and it's maybe the thing that makes the demon give its sense of freedom and autonomy. Because in some respects, it's very similar then to, say, Promethean, where you have milestones. It's those unanswered questions that drive you to explore the world, to explore the reality they're in. So here's kind of like some other things that are said in Flowers of Hell. Mechanically minded demons liken it to the process of combining simple machines into more complex device, and don't see it therefore as a superstitious thing. They see the cipher as being sort of like an engine, which obviously is operated by various subparts. So obviously you have the gearbox, you have the spark plugs and all that type of stuff. And but it is something that is greater than its sum of parts. And I think that's the important thing, is that the cipher allows something greater than the embeds that are used to create it. The thing with the cipher is that the final secret that it reveals is not the end game for the demons. So it's not the end of the game for your demon in the same way that, getting the final milestones for your Promethean means that you become human. That's kind of a very end game scenario. And the final secret doesn't necessarily have to be personal to the character. So they're all meant to be things that are kind of existential in nature that are asking things about the reality that the demon inhabits. And then the key then you have is the bit to that is that interlocks are new powers that are generated by embeds. As a demon in the game starts with at least one embed, and as it learns more, it can see if the embeds interlock, and that means they have to test that interlocking. So they have to find the right key. So the key is something which determines whether these embeds can interlock together. And I think that's where the problem for people maybe with Demon is coming up with what are the keys, what are the mystical insight, what is the occult knowledge that leads to creating believable keys that then lead on to finding the right embeds, which allows them to get the interlock, which is a new power, and then learning the new key, which gets them the next interlock, and then reveals the final secret and what that is. I think these are very... you want to, as a storyteller, give some deep and meaningful kind of play experience for your players, and therefore writing evocative and interesting keys and a cipher, I think, is the main difficulty there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but so to complete my little set, say I'm a demon, I start gameplay with this one embed.
Yeah, that's right.
What if I, throughout the course of the game, just never decide to learn the second embed?
Then you'll never get to your cipher.
It never comes up in play. It's I need to learn how to unlock doors with, from 30 paces or whatever the next embed is, and I never come across a door that's locked.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe a bit kind of
right. It's ridiculous. It's just an example.
Yeah, you can't get to your cipher unless you learn more embeds. So you have to be, obviously, then to a degree, you have to, as a storyteller, the way you construct the keys is to, are in such a way to push the players to maybe explore things that their characters have not done yet, or that they're all, if you kind of design them with the players, is a way that you therefore help the player explore things that they want to explore with that character.
I mean, much like Galconda in Vampire, Transcendence in Wraith, or maybe even Milestones in Promethean, they don't actually have to be part of your game. It's very easy for that to be kind of a side system that you don't explore in your story, or maybe only one character really furthers that. So definitely for smaller games, ciphers don't really have to be something that you pay too much attention to.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's I mean the actual the I would say that in Flowers of Hell, it doesn't really, to me, expand upon the cipher that much more than what's already in the core book, which I think is a bit of a disappointment, because I think they could have done a more of a list of kind of like interesting kind of occult secrets or gnosis that you could use to kind of drive the players forward. So that's kind of disappointing there. I think it's still kind of a very difficult kind of topic for storytellers to kind of approach, simply because if you want to give that kind of play experience, it's quite difficult for like more than say 3 players to come up with individual keys and individual interlocks and individual ciphers. That's a lot of groundwork to be done.
That's a lot of different directions to push your characters in too over the course of a campaign.
But I think we're coming up with an idea right here. Chris, what about a group cipher? Could you have what's the name of a demon group? again?
A ring.
A ring of demons all have the same cipher or something very, very similar, which could be one of the reasons why they're all working together.
I think Demon gets across the idea that demons no demon has the same cipher. I thought you were going to get at more of an idea that the demons themselves create an interlock between each other for a grand cipher.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Yeah, that would be interesting. The other things that are in Flowers Hall, I'll just go across. They give integrity and breaking points and numerics and more stuff, so you can actually play properly a stigmatic, because of course they're still human, so they have particular breaking points and things to cover there. And that's pretty much the whole of that book. I mean, I'm not going to go over like all the embeds and all the powers there, because there's too much. I mean, we already know that the embeds and exploits and demons, some of them are kind of crazy. Like one I'm reading right now, just for me, a particular embed called Fractal Reality. So the embed speeds up a timeline and causes infrequent things to reoccur more quickly than they might otherwise. So this means that you can essentially just cause something that you want to happen more frequently, and then take advantage of that anomalous chance. So there's various kind of just grand effects in there that you can get. But as always, like I think those are the least interesting parts of the book, is reading a big list of powers when players can just trawl through that and see what's interesting. So I think Flowers of Hell is useful because, as I said, it also details how to develop agencies and how to build your ring and how players fit together. So in that way, it's a bit like coteries for Vampire the Requiem, because often it's difficult to know why these types of demons would work together. When you've got an Inquisitor and you've got another type of demon that wants to rejoin the God Machine and all that. So it's a useful book, though I don't think it's fully made detailing the cipher easier. Though that might be something I might return to, because I've finally downloaded the other PDFs I got from the Kickstarter. So the Seattle book and Demon Interface and Demon Seeds. So I may have a look at that in the near future, and we'll come back to Demon and talk about ciphers. Maybe I might run something by that point. We'll see. My New Year's is quite hectic, so we'll see what happens with that. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Is that pretty much everything that Flowers of Hell covers?
Yeah, it's just a big grab bag of stuff for as a player's guide about how to play your demons more.
Nice. All right, I like it. Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much it for this Winter Solstice episode of Darker Days Radio. If you want to get in contact with us, you can definitely send us an email over at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com, or you can get in contact with us at our G+, Google Plus community. Just search for Darker Days Radio there. Or you can go onto Facebook at facebook.com/darkerdaysradio. And I think that's pretty much it. So, Chris, Chigg, thank you as usual. And everyone, thanks for listening, and have a good night.
See ya.
Enjoy your night, guys.